What if everything you thought you knew about time was, in the grand scheme of human history, a little bit simplistic? We live our lives by the Gregorian calendar, a system we're taught is the pinnacle of accuracy, the final word on tracking the year. But what if I told you that for centuries, even millennia, civilizations across the globe operated on timekeeping systems so sophisticated, so perfectly aligned with the cosmos, that they make our own calendar look like a rough draft? Imagine a world where our modern method is the less precise option. This isn't science fiction, it's our forgotten past. Long before satellites and supercomputers, ancient astronomers, with little more than stone observatories and naked eye observations, unlocked the secrets of the seasons, the moon, and the stars with a precision that is nothing short of breathtaking. Today, we're embarking on a journey to rediscover that lost genius. We'll be exploring 25 ancient calendars more accurate than ours, each one a testament to the incredible intellectual ambition of our ancestors. This is a story of human curiosity, a drive to understand our place in the universe that transcends culture and continent. From the vast deserts of the Americas to the lush river valleys of Asia, brilliant minds were independently solving the same complex puzzle: how to measure the one resource that governs all life. They weren't just marking days, they were building intricate maps of time itself, creating cycles within cycles that could predict celestial events centuries into the future. Their work was not merely practical, it was deeply philosophical, weaving together mathematics, astronomy, and spirituality into a cohesive understanding of existence. So consider this your invitation to step away from the familiar tick-tock of the modern clock and into a realm of extraordinary achievement. We're about to uncover systems that calculated the solar year with a margin of error measured in mere seconds, calendars that harmonized the sun and moon in a celestial dance, and frameworks so durable they guided empires for thousands of years. This exploration is more than a list. It's a rediscovery of a sophistication we have only recently begun to appreciate. Get ready to have your perception of time fundamentally altered as we dive into the ingenious ways ancient civilizations mastered the clockwork of the cosmos long before our technology ever existed. The journey begins now, and we start our journey in the dense rainforests of Mesoamerica with a civilization whose grasp of time was so profound, it continues to captivate and baffle us today: the Maya. Their masterpiece, the long count calendar, is arguably one of the most sophisticated timekeeping systems ever conceived by humanity. Most of us remember it from the hype surrounding the year 2012, a date that was wildly misinterpreted as a prediction of the world's end. In reality, that date simply marked the completion of a great cycle, a resetting of the cosmic odometer, not an apocalypse. The Maya were thinking on a scale that makes our centuries seem trivial. Their long count was designed to measure vast epochs, tracking time linearly over a span of thousands of years, which is a radical concept when most ancient calendars were cyclical. The engine of this system was its unique mathematical base. While we count in tens, the Maya used a base 20 or vigesimal system. Imagine counting on your fingers and toes, that's 20 digits. This foundation allowed them to handle enormous numbers with an elegant efficiency. The long count isn't just a single number, it's a series of cycles that stack upon each other like cosmic gears. The basic unit is the kin, or 1 day. 20 kin make a yuanal, which is about 20 days. 18 yuanals, not 20, make a ton, a year of 360 days. This might seem like an odd break in the pattern, but it was a deliberate adjustment to bring their count closer to the solar year. From there, the cycles escalate dramatically. 20 tons form a katon, 20 katons form a bakton, and so on. We're talking about units of time so immense that they were used to date mythological events of creation, placing human history within a grand cosmic narrative. But the true genius of the Maya system lies in its integration. the long count didn't operate in isolation. It meshed perfectly with two other vital cycles to create a complete picture of time. The first is the Hob, a 365-day solar calendar much like our own, divided into 18 months of 20 days each, plus a short 5-day period considered to be unlucky and outside the normal flow of time. The second is the sacred Tzolk'in, a 260-day cycle formed by the interplay of 13 numbers and 20-day gods. This wasn't a calendar for planting crops, it was a spiritual guide dictating the quality of each day, its fortune and its energy. The magic happens when you consider how these three systems, the long count, the Hob, and the Tzolk'in, all interlock. Any given day had a unique designation in all three cycles simultaneously. It would take a staggering 52 years for the Hob and Tzolk'in to realign and repeat a specific combination, a period the Maya held as a significant cycle of renewal. And for the long count to realign with all of them, that cycle is over 25,000 years long. This intricate dance allowed Maya priests and astronomers to plot celestial events like the movements of Venus with phenomenal accuracy, seeing time not as a simple line but as a complex, woven fabric connecting human destiny directly to the cosmos. Yet for all its cosmic grandeur, the Maya system was far from the only ancient attempt to pin down the solar year with precision. If we travel from the jungles of Central America to the sun-baked banks of the Nile, we encounter a calendar whose elegant simplicity and profound influence arguably shaped the Western world's very conception of time, the ancient Egyptian civil calendar. This was a system born not from intricate cycles of gods and numbers, but from the relentless, predictable rhythm of life itself, the annual flooding of the Nile River. For the Egyptians, the river was everything. It was the source of fertility, the foundation of their agriculture, and the heartbeat of their civilization. And so, their calendar was a direct reflection of this reality, meticulously structured around the three seasons dictated by the Nile's behavior. These seasons were the pillars of the Egyptian year. First came Akhet, the season of inundation, when the Nile would overflow its banks, depositing the rich, life-giving silt that would nourish the fields. This was followed by Peret, the season of emergence or growth, when the waters receded and farmers could sow their seeds in the freshly fertilized soil. Finally, there was Shemu, the season of heat or harvest, when the crops were gathered under the blazing sun before the cycle began anew. This three-season structure was brilliantly pragmatic, directly tying the abstract passage of time to the essential agricultural activities that sustained the entire kingdom. It was a calendar deeply rooted in the earth, a far cry from the celestial mathematics of the Maya, but no less sophisticated in its own right. The mechanics of the calendar were strikingly straightforward. It consisted of 12 months, each exactly 30 days long, resulting in a 360-day year. To reconcile this with the true solar year of approximately 365 and a quarter days, the Egyptians added 5 extra days at the end of the year. These were the epagomenal days, considered to be outside the normal year, a time celebrated as the birthdays of the gods but also viewed as potentially dangerous and unlucky. This creation of a 365-day solar calendar was a monumental leap in timekeeping. It was one of the first purely solar-based systems in history, abandoning the messy complications of lunar months that had plagued other early calendars. This focus on the sun gave the Egyptian calendar a remarkable stability. Its years were all the same length, making long-term planning and record-keeping significantly easier for the state's vast administration. However, this very simplicity contained a subtle flaw, a creeping error that would reveal itself over centuries. By ignoring the extra quarter of a day each year, the Egyptian calendar slowly began to drift against the actual seasons. Every 4 years, their civic new year would arrive about 1 day earlier relative to the solar events it was meant to mark, like the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which heralded the Nile's flood. Over a lifetime, this drift was barely noticeable. but over the course of a century, the calendar would be off by about 25 days. This meant that after several hundred years, the season of Akit, meant to correspond with the flood, might officially fall during a period of drought. The sacred connection between the calendar and the natural world it was designed to mirror was gradually breaking. The Egyptians were acutely aware of this drift. Their astronomical observations were too precise to miss it, yet they maintained their civil calendar unchanged for millennia, a testament to its administrative and cultural inertia. It was ultimately the Romans, with the Julian reform, who would later formalize the leap year to correct this exact problem, a solution that reveals just how advanced and yet incomplete the pioneering Egyptian system truly was. While the Egyptians crafted a stable, sun-based year, and the Maya built vast cycles of time, another ancient civilization developed a system of breathtaking complexity designed not to choose between the sun and the moon, but to marry them perfectly. This brings us to the shores of the Yellow River and the ingenious lunisolar framework of the Chinese calendar, a timekeeping tradition that has guided one of the world's oldest continuous civilizations for over 3 millennia. Its core challenge was a fundamental one. The lunar month is about 29.5 days long, leading to a 12-month year of only 354 days, a figure that falls short of the solar year by roughly 11 days. If you simply follow the moon, your seasons will drift rapidly, and a festival meant for spring could, within a few years, be occurring in the depths of winter. The Chinese solution to this problem was both elegant and mathematically profound. They would follow the moon for their months, but anchor the entire system to the sun to keep the seasons firmly in place. The secret to this harmony lies in a simple but brilliant mechanism: the intercalary month, sometimes called an embolismic month. Imagine the lunar year constantly falling behind the solar year like a slower runner on a track. Every 2 to 3 years, the gap between them grows to about an entire lunar month. At that precise moment, the Chinese calendar inserts an extra month, a duplicate of the previous one, effectively allowing the lunar cycle to catch up to the solar cycle. This isn't a random insertion. It's calculated with extreme precision based on the sun's position along the ecliptic path, divided into 24 solar terms known as Jiki. These terms, like start of spring or grain rain, are precise 15-day periods that mark subtle shifts in climate and agriculture. The rule is decisive. If a lunar month passes without containing a principal solar term, a specific midpoint term, then that month is designated as the intercalary month. This intricate rule set, refined over centuries of astronomical observation, ensures that the calendar remains in near-perfect sync with both the moon's phases and the sun's journey through the heavens. This deep connection to the solar terms reveals the calendar's soul. It is fundamentally an agricultural calendar, a farmer's almanac written into the fabric of time itself. Each solar term provided crucial guidance for planting, harvesting, and managing the land. The waking of insects signaled the time for plowing, while great heat indicated the period for weeding. The calendar was a practical, living tool that synchronized human activity with the rhythms of the natural world. This agricultural heart beats strongly within the culture's most important celebration, the Chinese New Year, also known as the Spring Festival. This holiday doesn't fall on a fixed date like January 1st. It is determined by this lunisolar system, occurring on the second new moon after the winter solstice, usually between late January and mid-February. This timing ensures the celebration always aligns with the end of winter's dormancy and the hopeful beginning of a new agricultural cycle, a true rebirth tied directly to the earth. Beyond its practical guidance, the calendar is woven into the very identity of the people through the Chinese zodiac, a 12-year cycle where each year is assigned an animal sign: the rat, ox, tiger, and so on. This cycle, combined with the traditional system of heavenly stems and earthly branches, creates a repeating 60-year cycle that was used for historical dating, not unlike the Maya's long count but on a more human scale. Your zodiac animal is believed to influence your personality and destiny, creating a personal connection to the grand cosmic clockwork. The cumulative result of this multi-layered system is a long-term reckoning of time of staggering accuracy. By meticulously tracking the motions of the sun, moon, and even planets, Chinese astronomers were able to correct their calendar over immense spans, creating a legacy of timekeeping that was not only functionally precise for agriculture and ritual but also philosophically profound, viewing humanity as an active participant in an orderly, predictable, and beautifully balanced universe. Moving from a system that masterfully balanced the sun and moon for agricultural life, we arrive at a tradition where timekeeping becomes an intricate spiritual science, a tool for aligning human consciousness with the very pulse of the cosmos. This is the world of the Hindu calendar known as the Panchanga. The name itself, translating to 5 limbs, reveals its profound complexity. It's not a single measure of time, but a multidimensional system that integrates 5 distinct astronomical elements to define the unique quality of every single day. Where our modern calendars might tell us it is Tuesday, the 10th of the month, the Panchanga offers a far richer description, providing a cosmic fingerprint for each moment that guides everything from religious rituals to the start of a new business. The first limb and a fundamental unit is the thy or lunar day. This is not simply a 24-hour period from sunrise to sunrise. Instead, a thy is the time it takes for the longitudinal angle between the moon and the sun to increase by 12 degrees. Since the moon orbits the Earth, this creates a cycle of 30 thys in a lunar month, each with its own name and spiritual significance. Some thys are considered highly auspicious for new beginnings, while others might be best for reflection or completing tasks. Next is the Vara, the familiar solar day, which is what most of us would recognize as a Monday or a Friday. This solar cycle runs concurrently, grounding the lunar rhythms in the familiar 7-day week. The third element elevates the system to a celestial level, the nakshatra or lunar mansion. The path of the moon through the sky was divided into 27 segments, each associated with a specific star or constellation. Your birth nakshatra is a cornerstone of Vedic astrology, believed to impart deep characteristics, almost like a more nuanced version of a Western zodiac sign. The moon's passage through these nakshatras each day adds another layer of energetic influence to the Panchanga, but the system delves even deeper with the final 2 limbs, which are more subtle combinations. A yoga is calculated by adding the longitudes of the sun and the moon and dividing the sky into 27 segments. Each yoga represents a specific union of solar and lunar energies, influencing the overall quality of the day, determining whether it is favorable for effort, learning, or rest. Finally, the Karana is half of a thy, providing an even more refined time division, often used for pinpointing the most auspicious moments to begin a short, specific activity. The true genius of the Panchanga lies in how these 5 limbs are woven together. A priest or an astrologer doesn't just look at one element, they synthesize them all. An activity might be ideal during a certain thy, but only if the moon is in a favorable nakshatra and the yoga of the day is supportive. This creates an incredibly detailed and personalized map of time, used for centuries to determine the perfect moment for a wedding, the groundbreaking for a new home, or the start of a long journey. This precision was not merely for ritual, it was born from and supported by advanced astronomical observation. The ability to accurately predict the timing and visibility of eclipses was a key test of any ancient astronomical system, and the Panchanga, with its meticulous tracking of the sun and moon's paths, excelled at this. The calculations embedded within the Siddhantic traditions of Hindu astronomy could forecast lunar and solar eclipses with remarkable accuracy, long before the phenomena were visible. This demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, including the concepts of the moon's nodes, the points where the paths of the sun and moon intersect. This predictive power underscores that the Panchanga is far more than a religious artifact. It is a living scientific tradition, a continuously refined model of the solar system that has been maintained and updated by scholars for over 2 millennia. Even today, millions of people across South Asia consult the Panchanga for daily guidance, making it one of the oldest continuously used timekeeping systems in the world, a testament to its enduring accuracy and its deep integration into the cultural and spiritual life of a civilization. This same drive for cosmic harmony, this need to perfectly align human activity with the heavens, fueled one of the most influential timekeeping systems in human history, one whose legacy is embedded in the very structure of our modern week. We now journey to the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the cradle of civilization itself, to meet the brilliant astronomers of Babylon. Their lunisolar calendar may seem less flashy than the Maya's long count or as spiritually intricate as the Hindu Panchanga, but its impact is arguably more direct and pervasive in our daily lives. The Babylonian system was the bedrock, the foundational blueprint upon which many Western calendars, including our own, were ultimately built. The Babylonian calendar, like the Chinese system, faced the core challenge of reconciling the moon's cycles with the sun's year. Their starting point was the lunar month, which they defined with remarkable precision, from the first sighting of the thin crescent moon after the new moon to the next sighting. These months alternated in length between 29 and 30 days, a pragmatic solution to the moon's 29.5-day cycle. 12 of these months gave them a lunar year of about 354 days. But the Babylonians were keen observers of the natural world. They knew that for their calendar to be useful for agriculture and state administration, the seasons needed to remain fixed. A calendar that drifted 11 days every year would quickly become useless. Their solution was intercalation, the deliberate insertion of an extra month. But unlike the Chinese, who developed a complex rule-based system, the Babylonian approach was initially more observational. When the royal astronomers observed that the calendar was falling too far behind the seasons, a decree would be issued to add a 13th month. This was not a haphazard decision. It was based on centuries of meticulous records of celestial events, particularly the movements of the stars and the solstices. What truly set the Babylonians apart, elevating them from mere observers to master mathematicians of the sky, was their development of an astonishingly accurate predictive model. Sometime around the 5th or 4th century before the Common Era, they moved beyond simply reacting to the seasons and began to mathematically foresee the need for intercalation. They discovered a powerful cycle. Over a period of 19 solar years, there are almost exactly 235 lunar months. This is the famous Metonic cycle. This meant that by inserting 7 extra months into every 19-year period, the lunar and solar calendars would realign almost perfectly. This 19-year cycle became the golden standard for lunisolar calibration, a testament to their advanced mathematical prowess. Their ability to predict lunar phases and even eclipses was legendary. They meticulously recorded data on clay tablets for generations, identifying the repeating patterns of celestial events. They understood the Saros cycle, a period of about 18 years after which a similar pattern of eclipses repeats, allowing them to forecast these awe-inspiring events with a confidence that must have seemed like magic to their contemporaries. But perhaps their most enduring gift to the world, one we all live by today, is the 7-day week. While other cultures had market cycles or other short-term periods, the Babylonians are credited with formalizing the continuous 7-day cycle that is independent of the lunar month. Their inspiration was astrological. They observed 7 celestial bodies that moved against the backdrop of the fixed stars: the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn. Each day was dedicated to one of these 7 heavenly powers, creating a recurring rhythm that shaped the character of each day. This concept was so powerful and practical that it was adopted by subsequent empires, including the Romans, and eventually spread across the globe. It is a profound thought that when you mark a Saturday or a Wednesday on your calendar, you are participating in a tradition that dates back over 2,500 years to the stargazing priests of Mesopotamia. The Babylonian calendar's genius lay in its powerful combination of empirical observation and mathematical rigor. It was a system designed for a complex, organized society, one that needed to schedule taxes, religious festivals, and agricultural labor with reliability. Their work provided the essential framework that Greek astronomers would later refine and that the Romans would adapt into the Julian calendar. In many ways, the story of Western timekeeping is the story of successive civilizations building upon and tweaking the foundational model first laid down with such precision on the clay tablets of Babylon. Far to the south, high in the Andes Mountains, an empire built its understanding of time not on paper or complex calculations, but on the very landscape itself. The Inca calendar was a masterpiece of practical astronomy, a system so integrated with the environment that the capital city of Cusco was transformed into a colossal, living observatory. At the heart of this system were the sucancas, a series of towering pillars strategically placed on the horizon surrounding the sacred valley. These were not merely markers, they were precise sightlines. Inca astronomers would position themselves in the central plaza of Cusco and watch as the sun, on its yearly journey, would rise and set directly behind these different pillars. The specific pillar that framed the sunrise on any given day told them exactly where they were in the solar cycle. The most critical dates, the June and December solstices, and the March and September equinoxes, were marked by the sun rising or setting behind the most prominent sucancas, events that triggered massive state-sponsored festivals like the Grand Inti Raymi, the Festival of the Sun. This was a calendar you could see with your own eyes, a direct dialogue between the empire and the cosmos. While the solar year provided the overarching framework, the rhythm of daily life and agriculture was governed by a 12-month lunar calendar. Each month was named not after abstract gods or numbers, but for the specific agricultural or social activities that defined that period. For instance, the month we might equate with December was called Capac Raymi, the magnificent festival, a time of initiation ceremonies for young nobles. The month corresponding to August was Chakra Yapai Quilla, meaning the month to open the farmland, signaling the start of the planting season. This naming convention reveals a deeply pragmatic culture. The calendar was a communal to-do list, synchronizing the labor of millions across the vast empire with the turning of the seasons. The moons themselves were carefully observed, with each new moon marking the beginning of a new monthly cycle of work, celebration, and ritual. The true genius of the Inca system lay in its elegant solution to the perennial problem of lunar and solar misalignment. A 12-moon year is shorter than a solar year by 11 days, causing the lunar months to slowly drift through the seasons. The Incas solved this not with a complex mathematical formula, but through direct empirical observation. When the priests noticed that the lunar months were no longer aligning correctly with the agricultural activities they were named for, they would simply insert an intercalary month. This decision was likely made by observing the sucancas. When the sun's position and the expected lunar month fell out of sync, an extra moon was added to reset the calendar. This practice ensured that Pacapocoiquilla, the flowering month, always occurred when the flowers were actually blooming, and Aimorequilla, the harvest month, always coincided with the actual harvest. This kept their world in perfect harmony, ensuring that religious ceremonies intended to honor the earth for its bounty were held at the moment that bounty was most evident. This profound connection between time, astronomy, and agriculture was the bedrock of Inca power and social cohesion. The state used the calendar to orchestrate the massive Mita labor tax, mobilizing thousands of people for construction projects, farming state-owned lands, or serving in the army at precisely the right time of year. The calendar dictated when terraces were to be built, when irrigation canals were to be cleaned, and when crops were to be sown and harvested across the empire's varied climates. It was a tool of breathtaking administrative efficiency, but also of spiritual necessity. For the Inca, time was not a separate entity. It was the physical manifestation of the relationship between the people, their ruler. The Sapa Inca, considered a descendant of the sun god Inti and the natural world. By mastering the calendar, they demonstrated their divine mandate to rule and their ability to maintain balance and order within their universe. A universe Chinese letter measured with stone pillars against the majestic backdrop of the Andes. Now, just as the Inca used their landscape as a cosmic clock, another American civilization carved its entire understanding of time into a single, breathtaking monument. When you picture an ancient calendar, one image likely springs to mind more than any other: the massive, intricately carved Aztec sunstone. This 12-foot wide basalt disc is an icon, but it's almost universally misunderstood. It's not a calendar in the way we think of one. It's more like a cosmic diagram, a stone embodiment of the Aztec universe that contains within its concentric rings the complex interplay of their most important time cycles. To truly grasp its genius, we need to look past the stone itself and into the two distinct calendars that governed Aztec life, and whose combination created a system of remarkable precision. The first of these is the Tonalpohualli, or the Count of Days. This 260-day cycle was the sacred heartbeat of the Aztec world. Think of it not as a way to track the seasons, but as a divine almanac that determined the very nature of each day. It was formed by meshing two smaller cycles, a sequence of 20-day signs like crocodile, wind, house, or lizard, with a sequence of 13 numbers. You start with one crocodile, then 2 wind, 3 house, and so on, running through all the combinations. Once you've paired the 13th number with a day sign, you start the numbers over again with the next sign. It takes 260 unique combinations to exhaust all possibilities and return to one crocodile. Each of these day combinations had its own patron deity and was imbued with a specific fate, making the Tonalpohualli an essential guide for priests who would use it to name newborns, choose auspicious dates for battles, and interpret the will of the gods. It was a perpetual, sacred wheel, forever turning independently of the solar year. Running parallel to this sacred count was the Xupohualli, the year count. This was the civic and agricultural calendar, a 365-day solar year divided into 18 months of 20 days each, with a final, dreaded 5-day period known as the Nemontemi. These 5 days were considered empty, useless, and extremely unlucky, a time when the normal order of the universe was suspended and people stayed indoors to avoid calamity. Each of the 18 months was marked by a specific festival, often involving elaborate public ceremonies and sacrifices designed to ensure the sun would continue its journey and the rains would come. This solar calendar kept the empire running on schedule, synchronizing farming, taxation, and religious obligations with the actual passing of the seasons. The true magic and the source of the Aztec calendar's incredible accuracy lies in how these two cycles, the Tonalpohualli and the Xupohualli, interlocked. They operated like two gears of different sizes, spinning at their own speeds. The sacred round of 260 days and the solar year of 365 days have one important mathematical relationship. Their least common multiple is 18,980 days. If you divide that by 365, you get exactly 52 years. This 52-year period was the Aztec calendar round, a cycle of profound significance across Mesoamerica. It meant that any specific combination of a Tonalpohualli date and a Xupohualli date would not repeat for 52 years. The completion of this cycle was a time of tremendous anxiety and renewal. The Aztecs feared the world might end, that the sun might not rise again, At the climax of the ceremony of the new fire, they would extinguish all fires in the empire, tear down their household idols, and wait on a mountaintop for priests to ascertain if the stars would continue their path. If they did, a new fire was lit in a sacrificial victim's chest, and this flame was carried to every home, symbolically rekindling the world for another 52 years. This brings us back to the sun stone. While it dramatically depicts the 5 creations of the world and the current sun, its outer rings are a masterful representation of these time cycles. You can see the 20-day signs of the tonal Pohuali and symbols that likely relate to the years. It served as a permanent, monumental calculator, encoding the relationships between sacred and solar time. But the Aztecs, inheriting knowledge from earlier cultures like the Maya, also understood time on a much grander scale. They used a long count system, tracking time in units that stretched back to a mythical starting point, allowing them to place historical and cosmic events on a single, continuous timeline. Their astronomical observations, particularly of Venus as the morning and evening star, were integrated into this count, enabling them to predict its cycles with precision. So the next time you see the Aztec sun stone, remember it's not just a calendar. It's a complex philosophical statement, a stone manifesto declaring that human time, divine fate, and the cosmos itself are inextricably linked in an orderly, measurable, and beautifully intricate dance. While the Aztecs and Incas built their calendars into the fabric of their empires, the ancient Greeks approached the problem of time with a characteristically different spirit, one of philosophical debate and mathematical innovation. Unlike the unified systems of large empires, ancient Greece was a collection of fiercely independent city-states, each with its own customs, its own gods, and crucially, its own calendar. This created a fascinating patchwork of timekeeping across the region. Athens, Sparta, Thebes, and others all operated on their own slightly different lunisolar schedules, meaning a festival month in one city might be a month for military campaigns in another. This lack of standardization wasn't seen as a flaw but as an expression of local identity. The Athenian calendar, the one we know the most about, was deeply intertwined with the city's democratic and religious life. Its months were named after major festivals like Hekatombeon, named for the hecatomb or sacrifice of 100 oxen, and the beginning of the month was proclaimed only after officials had physically sighted the new crescent moon. This system was human-scaled and flexible, but that very flexibility revealed its greatest weakness. It was susceptible to human error and even political manipulation. A priesthood wanting to extend a festival or a general needing more time to prepare for a battle could, in theory, influence the declaration of a new month. This inherent variability is what makes the Greek response to the calendar problem so brilliant. While their civic calendars were localized and sometimes imprecise, their astronomers were thinking on a universal mathematical scale. They sought not just to observe the heavens, but to uncover the perfect geometric order they believed underpinned them. This intellectual pursuit led to one of the most significant breakthroughs in the history of timekeeping, the Metonic cycle. In the 5th century before the Common Era, an Athenian astronomer named Meton made an extraordinary observation. He realized that 19 solar years and 235 lunar months are almost exactly the same length. To put that in perspective, 19 years of 365 and a quarter days each equals 6,939 and 3/4 days. 235 lunar cycles, each about 29.5 days long, equals 6,939.69 days. The difference is vanishingly small, just a couple of hours over a 19-year period. This was a discovery of staggering accuracy and profound implications. The genius of the Metonic cycle was that it provided a fixed, predictable rule for intercalation, replacing the need for ad hoc observational decisions. Instead of waiting to see if the seasons were drifting, a calendar keeper could now plan ahead. Over every 19-year cycle, they would simply add 7 extra months in a predetermined pattern. This would keep the lunar months perfectly in sync with the solar seasons, ensuring that a spring festival would always fall in the spring, year after year, century after century. This wasn't just a theoretical idea, it was put into practice. The Athenians famously erected a public inscription known as the Metonic parapegma, a kind of ancient almanac with peg holes next to astronomical and seasonal information. Each day, a peg would be moved to mark the date, and the parapegma would also indicate the expected heliacal rising or setting of important stars, which guided farmers and sailors. This device brought the abstract mathematical cycle into the daily life of the city. What makes the Metonic cycle truly remarkable is that it demonstrates a shift from seeing time as a series of recurring events to understanding it as a system that could be modeled mathematically. Greek astronomers like Meton and his colleague Euctemon were conducting systematic, longitudinal observations of solstices and equinoxes to refine their calculations. This same intellectual drive would lead later astronomers like Hipparchus to discover the precession of the equinoxes, a slow wobble in the Earth's axis that causes the stellar background to shift over a cycle of about 26,000 years. The Metonic cycle, therefore, is more than a convenient calendar trick. It is a landmark in the human effort to quantify the cosmos. It provided a golden standard for lunisolar calibration that was so effective it was adopted and celebrated by other cultures, including the Babylonians, who had likely discovered it independently and even used in the later calculation of the Christian date for Easter. In the fragmented world of ancient Greece, where every city marched to the beat of its own drum, the Metonic cycle stood as a unifying principle of reason, a mathematical truth that transcended local differences and pointed toward a cosmic order accessible to human logic. From the philosophical debates of ancient Greece, we travel to the heart of the Persian Empire during its golden age of science, where a project of unprecedented ambition was underway. In the 11th century, a brilliant assembly of astronomers, led by the legendary poet-mathematician Omar Khayyam, was commissioned to create a new official calendar. Their creation, known as the Jalali calendar, was so advanced, so perfectly engineered, that it remains one of the most accurate solar calendars ever devised by humanity, even surpassing the Gregorian calendar we use today in its long-term precision. This was not a mere tweak of an older system. It was a radical reinvention from the ground up, a conscious effort to create a timekeeping instrument of pure astronomical truth. The problem Khayyam and his colleagues sought to solve was an ancient one, the same drifting that had plagued the Egyptian calendar for millennia. The true solar year, known as the tropical year, is not a neat 365 and a quarter days. It is approximately 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds. That extra fraction beyond the quarter day, about 11 minutes and 15 seconds shorter, might seem trivial, but over centuries it adds up. The Julian calendar, which added a leap day every 4 years to account for the quarter day, still drifted by about 11 minutes each year. This meant it gained a full day against the seasons roughly every 128 years. The Jalali calendar's revolutionary design was built to correct this minuscule but cumulative error with breathtaking elegance. Its core innovation was the abandonment of a simple, fixed leap year cycle. Instead of automatically adding a day every 4 years, the Jalali calendar employed a complex observation-based system. The year was divided into 12 months, with the first 6 having 31 days, the next 5 having 30 days, and the final month having 29 days. But the rule for the leap day was what set it apart. A leap day would be added to that final month not on a rigid schedule, but based on the precise timing of the March equinox, the moment the sun crosses the celestial equator, marking the start of spring in the northern hemisphere. The rule was exquisitely precise. If the moment of the equinox occurred after noon on the last day of the year, then that day was considered to belong to the old year, and the new year would begin at the next sunset. However, if the equinox occurred before noon on that final day, then a new year was declared to have already begun, and the current year would be granted an extra day, the leap day, to bring the calendar back into perfect alignment. This made the calendar a living system, constantly fine-tuned to the actual motion of the sun. This intricate rule, based on real-time astronomical events, resulted in a cycle of leap years that is far more nuanced than our Gregorian system. Over a grand cycle of years, leap days are distributed in a pattern that averages out to an astonishingly accurate match for the tropical year. The margin of error is so small that it accumulates to just one single day over a span of about 3,800 years. To put that in perspective, the Gregorian calendar, for all its own improvements, has an error of about one day every 3,200 years. This means the Jalali calendar, conceived nearly 1,000 years ago, is actually more precise over the very long term than the system adopted by most of the world centuries later. It was a mathematical masterpiece, a testament to the extraordinary observational and computational skills of the Islamic astronomers of the era. The calendar's structure, with its months of consistent length, also made it remarkably easy to use for civil purposes, combining administrative simplicity with cosmic accuracy. The legacy of Omar Khayyam's work endures today in the modern Iranian calendar, which is a direct descendant of the Jalali system, a living connection to a time when the quest for perfect harmony between human time and cosmic time reached one of its highest peaks. While the Greeks and Persians sought to perfect the solar year, another ancient tradition has maintained a living, breathing system that masterfully bridges the celestial realms of the sun and the moon for over 2 millennia. The Hebrew calendar, the spiritual and cultural heartbeat of Jewish life, is a lunisolar framework of extraordinary sophistication, designed to ensure that its lunar months perpetually dance in harmony with the solar seasons. This is not merely a historical relic, it is a dynamically calculated system still in use today, one where the dates of major holidays are not arbitrary, but are determined by a complex set of rules that mirror the cosmos itself. The entire system is built around a single, profound imperative that the festival of Passover must always fall in the spring, as dictated in the Torah. This simple-sounding commandment required the development of a self-correcting mechanism of genius-level complexity. The challenge is fundamental. A year of 12 lunar months totals about 354 days, falling short of the 365-day solar year by 11 days. If left unchecked, Passover would slowly drift through the seasons, occurring in winter, then autumn, and eventually summer, completely divorcing it from its historical and agricultural context as a spring festival. The Hebrew solution is the 19-year Metonic cycle, a concept we've seen before, but here it is implemented with a unique and rigorous structure. Within this cycle, an extra lunar month called Adar-I is added 7 times. These leap years, known as Shanim Mayubarot pregnant years, occur in years 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 19 of the cycle. This carefully orchestrated pattern of intercalation ensures that the average Hebrew year length aligns almost perfectly with the solar year, preventing any significant drift. The calendar doesn't just roughly track the sun. It locks it into a long-term embrace, guaranteeing that the seasons remain fixed within their designated months for generation after generation. But the calendar's precision goes far deeper than this 19-year cycle. The start of each month, or Rosh Chodesh, is a moment determined by a beautiful blend of ancient tradition and precise calculation. Originally, the new month was declared based on the testimony of witnesses who had sighted the new crescent moon in the sky. This declaration was made by the Sanhedrin, the high court in Jerusalem, and messengers would then be dispatched to inform distant communities. However, after the dispersion of the Jewish people, this observational method became impractical. In the 4th century, the sage Hillel II codified the entire calendar system into a fixed set of mathematical rules, allowing Jews anywhere in the world to calculate the exact dates of holidays for centuries to come. This was a monumental achievement, transforming the calendar from a locally observed practice into a global, unified system. These mathematical rules are remarkably intricate. They dictate that a new month can only begin on certain days of the week, a restriction designed to prevent certain holidays from falling on days that would create practical or theological conflicts. For example, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, a strict fast day, cannot fall on a Friday or a Sunday because that would create a conflict with the Sabbath, a day of rest on either side of the fast. To prevent this, the current month might be lengthened or shortened by a day. Furthermore, the length of the lunar month is not simply alternated between 29 and 30 days. The calendar uses a precise mean lunation, the time between new moons, of 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 chalakim parts. A chelek is 1,088th of an hour, a unit of time so fine it allows for astronomical accuracy. If the calculated moment of the new moon occurs after a certain time of day, the new month is delayed, ensuring the calendar remains perfectly synchronized with the moon's actual position. This self-correcting nature is the hallmark of the Hebrew calendar's longevity. It is a system that constantly fine-tunes itself. The 4 gates of the year, known as the Dechiyot postponement rules, are a set of conditions that adjust the start of the year for Tishrei, the month containing the high holy days. These rules ensure that the year does not start on a Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday, and that it has the correct number of days to maintain the harmony of the entire cycle. The result is a calendar with years that can be either deficient 353 days, regular 354 days, or complete 355 days, and leap years that can be deficient 383 days, regular 384 days, or complete 385 days. This variable length is not a sign of inconsistency but of profound accuracy, a dynamic system that breathes and adjusts to maintain its perfect alignment with the sun and moon. For nearly 2,000 years, without the need for a central authority, this system has allowed Jewish communities worldwide to celebrate their holidays in unison, a testament to a timekeeping tradition that seamlessly weaves together divine commandment, astronomical observation, and mathematical brilliance. Now, let's shift our perspective entirely from lunisolar or solar systems to a calendar guided by a single, unwavering celestial rhythm, the moon. The Islamic calendar, also known as the Hijri calendar, stands apart from almost every other system we've discussed because it is purely lunar. While others struggle to reconcile the moon with the sun, the Hijri calendar embraces the moon's cycles with a profound and intentional simplicity. Its 12 months are defined solely by the lunar cycle, each beginning not by a calculation or a rule, but by the actual physical sighting of the faint new crescent moon in the evening sky. This direct connection to observation means a month can be 29 or 30 days long, and a full year totals approximately 354 days. This is 11 days shorter than the solar year, and this difference is not treated as a problem to be solved, but as a fundamental feature of the system. The Hijri calendar isn't designed to track the seasons. It's designed to track a different kind of time altogether, a time of faith and devotion. This deliberate design has a powerful consequence that can seem startling from an agricultural or civic perspective: the calendar drifts. Because each Hijri year is 11 days shorter than the Gregorian year, Islamic months slowly rotate through all the seasons over a cycle of about 33 years. The holy month of Ramadan, a period of fasting from dawn until sunset, might fall in the short, cool days of winter and then, over a decade, migrate into the long, hot days of summer. This means the spiritual experience of fasting, the duration and the physical challenge, changes significantly over a lifetime. For a Muslim living in Scandinavia, a Ramadan in deep winter might involve fasting for only a few hours, while a Ramadan in the midnight sun of summer could mean a fast lasting nearly 20 hours. This drifting is not an error. It's a built-in reminder of the transient nature of earthly seasons compared to the eternal and unchanging rhythm of worship. It universalizes the religious experience, ensuring that all Muslims, regardless of where they live, will observe their sacred months under every possible seasonal condition. The precision of the Hijri calendar, then, is not measured by its alignment with the sun, but by its flawless tracking of the moon's phases. Each month is a true lunation, the time from one new moon to the next, averaging about 29.5 days. This makes it exceptionally accurate for its intended purpose of regulating Islamic rituals. The 5 daily prayers are tied to the sun's position, but the months themselves and the holidays within them like Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha are firmly anchored to the lunar cycle. This focus creates a beautifully simple and decentralized system. Traditionally, the start of a new month is confirmed by moon sighting committees in different localities, which can sometimes lead to variations of a day between countries depending on weather conditions and visibility. This very human element adds a layer of community and anticipation to the passage of time, as people wait for the official announcement that a new month of fasting or celebration has begun. However, in our modern, globally connected world, this simplicity also presents practical challenges. Planning international events, coordinating financial years in Islamic economies, or simply knowing the exact date of a future holiday well in advance can be difficult with a calendar that relies on local sightings. In response, many Muslim countries and communities have adopted a calculated or tabular version of the Islamic calendar for civil purposes. This calendar uses astronomical rules to determine the start of each month in advance, creating a standardized system for the entire world. Yet, the theological preference for the actual sighting of the moon remains strong for religious observance, a testament to the enduring power of tradition. This has sparked ongoing discussions among scholars and astronomers about the possibility of a unified, reformed Islamic calendar that could harness modern astronomical data while still honoring the principles of the faith. These proposals often suggest using a calculated calendar based on a global convention, such as starting the month when the new moon is born conjunction, even if it's not visible in a particular location or when it becomes visible somewhere on Earth. This debate highlights a fascinating intersection of ancient tradition and modern science, as a centuries-old system navigates the demands of a new era, all while maintaining its core, beautiful commitment to following the light of the moon. Moving from the living traditions of the Hebrew and Islamic calendars, we now journey into a world where our knowledge comes not from continuous use, but from a single, miraculous archaeological discovery. Picture a field in eastern France near the modern town of Coligny in the year 1897. Here, a farmer's plow struck against something metal, unearthing a fragmented bronze tablet that would forever change our understanding of Iron Age Europe. This was the Coligny calendar, a 5-foot-wide, intricately inscribed record that represents the most important and complete evidence of timekeeping among the ancient Celts. Before its discovery, much of what was known about the Druids and their knowledge came from biased Roman accounts, often depicting them as primitive barbarians. But this bronze artifact told a different story, a story of a complex, sophisticated lunisolar system that rivaled the mathematical prowess of the Mediterranean civilizations the Romans so admired. Deciphering the calendar is like cracking an ancient code. The script is Latin, a clear influence from contact with the Roman world, but the language is Gaulish, the native tongue of the Celtic people in that region. The calendar itself is laid out in a grid, organizing time across a span of 5 years or 62 lunar months. This 5-year cycle was the Celts' master key to harmonizing the moon and the sun. Each year is divided into 12 months, with the names of these months beautifully reflecting the natural world and agricultural life of Gaul. There is Samanios, likely meaning summer's end, which may have marked the new year, and Germanios, meaning winter's end. Other months like Equus horse or Elimbivios deer raising time point to a society deeply attuned to the rhythms of animal husbandry and the changing seasons. The mechanics of the months reveal a keen astronomical understanding. Each lunar month alternates in a fixed pattern between 29 and 30 days, a practical solution to the moon's true cycle of approximately 29.5 days. But the Celts didn't just mark time in a simple alternating rhythm. They designated each month as either lucky or unlucky, a concept shared with other Indo-European cultures. This wasn't mere superstition. It was a way of classifying time, of assigning a qualitative value to different periods for religious ceremonies, social gatherings, and important political decisions. A chieftain might plan a raid during a lucky month, while an unlucky month might be reserved for quiet reflection and domestic tasks. The days within the months were also marked with abbreviations, possibly indicating specific religious festivals or market days, creating a detailed schedule for the entire community. The true genius of the Coligny calendar, however, lies in its solution to the classic lunisolar problem. A year of 12 lunar months is about 11 days shorter than a solar year. To prevent their calendar from drifting wildly through the seasons, the Celts, like the Babylonians and Greeks, employed intercalation. Within their 5-year cycle, they inserted 2 extra months. This wasn't a random addition, it was a precisely calculated intervention. By adding 62 months over 5 years instead of the standard 60, they effectively balanced the lunar count with the solar reality. The placement of these intercalary months was strategic, inserted in the 2nd and 5th years of the cycle. This complex 5-year scheme demonstrates that the Druids, the intellectual class of the Celts, were not just priests but accomplished astronomers and mathematicians. They were capable of longitudinal observation, tracking the sun's path over several years to develop a system that could predict the seasons and maintain a long-term equilibrium between the celestial clocks of the sun and moon. What makes the Coligny calendar so captivating is the mystery that still surrounds it. Was it a practical almanac used by a local community to plan their year? Or was it a grand ceremonial object, a symbolic representation of cosmic order used for teaching by the Druidic elite? Its size and the fact that it was made of expensive bronze suggest the latter. It may have been a central tool for the Druids to demonstrate their power by claiming control over the very measurement of time itself. Its discovery, deliberately broken and buried, perhaps as a votive offering or to hide it from Roman forces, adds to its enigmatic aura. The calendar stands as a powerful rebuttal to the Roman narrative of Celtic primitiveness. It shows us a society with a highly developed sense of cyclical time, a deep connection to their environment, and the intellectual capacity to encode that understanding into a durable, mathematically sound system. It is a precious window into the mind of a people who, far from being simple barbarians, looked up at the same moon and sun as their Mediterranean counterparts and devised their own equally brilliant way of mapping the cosmos. Now, after witnessing the incredible precision of systems like the Persian Jalali and the Hebrew calendars, it might be shocking to learn that one of the most influential civilizations in history began with a timekeeping system that was, to put it mildly, a complete and utter mess. We travel next to the heart of the Roman Republic, to an era before emperors, to a calendar so chaotic and politically manipulated that it serves as a perfect example of what happens when time itself becomes a tool for power rather than a reflection of cosmic order. This was the original Roman calendar, a system so flawed it makes our modern frustrations with daylight saving time seem trivial by comparison. Legend attributes its creation to Romulus, the mythical founder of Rome, and it reflected the practical, agricultural life of a small city-state. But this calendar was bizarrely short, containing only 10 months. The year began in March, named for the god Mars, and ended in December, whose name literally means the 10th month. This left a gap of about 60 days during the depths of winter, a period that was essentially an unmeasured, unnamed void. These months weren't even the familiar 30 or 31 days we know. They were mostly 29 or 31 days long, resulting in a year of roughly 304 days. It was a system completely divorced from both the solar year and the lunar cycles, drifting rapidly against the seasons. Imagine celebrating a festival meant for the spring planting season in the middle of autumn because the calendar had slipped so far out of sync. For the early Romans, this was a regular reality. The problem only deepened with a later reform that attempted to patch the system by adding 2 new months, January and February, placed at the end of the year. But even this expanded 355-day calendar was still 10 days shorter than the solar year. To correct for this, a leap month called Mercedonius was supposed to be inserted every 2 years. However, this insertion was not governed by a fixed astronomical rule. Instead, the power to declare an intercalary month lay with a specific body of priests, the pontifices. This is where the calendar transformed from a mere technical failure into a tool of profound political corruption. The pontifices were not neutral scientists, they were politicians. They could shorten or lengthen the year based on whether they wanted to extend the term of a friendly official or cut short the term of an opponent. If a war was going badly, they might manipulate the calendar to delay elections. The system became so abused that by the time of Julius Caesar, the civic calendar was a staggering 3 months out of alignment with the actual seasons. Winter festivals were occurring in what was functionally autumn, and the entire rhythm of religious life and civil administration was thrown into disarray. It was this state of absolute chaos that set the stage for one of the most significant reforms in history. When Julius Caesar became dictator, he encountered a problem that went beyond mere inconvenience. The broken calendar was a symbol of a republic rotting from within, where the very measurement of time was corrupted for personal gain. During his campaign in Egypt, Caesar witnessed the stability of the Egyptian solar calendar, which, despite its own slow drift, was far superior to the Roman mess. He enlisted the help of the Alexandrian astronomer Solstices, and together they embarked on a radical overhaul. The resulting Julian calendar was a masterpiece of simplification and imposition of order. It discarded the lunar pretenses entirely, creating a purely solar year of 365 days, with a single leap day added every 4 years to account for the extra quarter day. The months were reorganized into the lengths we recognize today, and the start of the year was moved to January 1st. This reform was not just an astronomical correction, it was a profound political statement. By seizing control of the calendar from the corrupt priesthood and grounding it in a rational, predictable system, Caesar demonstrated the power of a centralized state to bring order to every aspect of life, including time itself. The desperate need for this reform underscores a powerful theme we've seen again and again. The quest for an accurate calendar was not merely an intellectual exercise. It was a fundamental necessity for agricultural survival, religious integrity, and stable governance, a goal so important that it could define the legacy of an emperor and reshape the way an entire civilization experienced its place in the cosmos. And so, against the backdrop of a calendar in total disarray, Julius Caesar took a step that would echo through the centuries. His reform was not a minor adjustment. It was a radical act of simplification, a declaration that the chaotic, politically weaponized time of the Roman Republic was over, to be replaced by a rational, orderly system befitting a new era of imperial control. Working closely with the Alexandrian Greek astronomer Solstices, Caesar looked past the messy lunar traditions and embraced the clean, steady rhythm of the sun. The new Julian calendar, implemented in 45 before the Common Era, was a masterpiece of elegant design. It established a fixed year of 365 days, divided into 12 months whose lengths are largely familiar to us today. The key innovation, the stroke of genius that gave the calendar its remarkable staying power, was the leap year. every fourth year, an extra day would be added to the month of February, creating a year of 366 days. This single day every 4 years was meant to account for the extra quarter of a day beyond the 365-day solar year. The logic was beautifully straightforward. If the true year is 365 and a quarter days long, then adding a full day every 4 years balances the books. The immediate impact was transformative. The year of confusion, 45 before the Common Era, had to be 445 days long just to wrench the civic calendar back into alignment with the seasons. But once this reset was complete, the Roman world finally had a stable, predictable measure of time. For the first time in living memory, spring festivals occurred in spring, and harvest dates aligned with the actual ripening of crops. The calendar became a powerful tool for administration across the vast empire, synchronizing tax collection, military campaigns, and legal proceedings. Its adoption was a testament to Roman power, imposing a single standard of time from Britain to Egypt. The month of Quintiles was even renamed Julius, our July, in Caesar's honor, a permanent monument to the man who tamed time itself. Yet, for all its revolutionary accuracy, the Julian calendar contained a tiny, hidden flaw, a flaw born from an understandable but critical overestimation. Saussagins calculated the solar year to be 365 and a quarter days exactly. But the true tropical year, the time it takes for the Earth to complete one full orbit around the Sun relative to the vernal equinox, is actually about 11 minutes shorter. It is 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes and 45 seconds. Those missing 11 minutes and 15 seconds per year seem vanishingly small, almost negligible. But time is a great amplifier of tiny errors. Over the course of a single year, the Julian calendar ran 11 minutes too long. Over a century, that error accumulated to about 18 hours. And over several centuries, it added up to entire days. The calendar was slowly, imperceptibly, drifting forward against the actual seasons. This drift was so gradual that it took more than a millennium for its consequences to become impossible to ignore. By the 16th century, the cumulative error had reached 10 full days. The vernal equinox, which was supposed to fall on March 21st as established by the Council of Nicaea in the 4th century for calculating Easter, was now occurring around March 11. This was a major problem for the Catholic Church, as the date of Easter, the most important feast in the Christian calendar, is directly tied to the spring equinox. A calendar that could not accurately pin down the equinox threatened the very unity of religious observance. The Julian system, a monumental improvement that brought order to the Western world for over 1600 years, had finally revealed its limitation. Its slight overestimation, a testament to the challenges of ancient measurement, set the stage for the next great reform, one that would fine-tune Caesar's masterpiece for the modern age. Yet the solution to the Julian calendar's creeping error would not come from Rome itself, but from a tradition that had preserved an ancient timekeeping legacy for over 1,000 years. While Europe grappled with a 10-day discrepancy, a vibrant Christian community in Egypt was quietly following a calendar of remarkable precision, one with roots stretching back to the very civilization that inspired Caesar's reform. This is the Coptic calendar, a living testament to the enduring genius of the ancient Egyptian system, refined and maintained with unwavering dedication by the Coptic Orthodox Church. Its story is a fascinating bridge between the pharaohs and the modern day, a direct lineage of astronomical knowledge that has survived empires, conquests, and religious transformations. To understand the Coptic calendar is to travel back to the banks of the Nile. Its fundamental structure is a direct inheritance from the ancient Egyptian civil calendar we discussed earlier, 12 months, each exactly 30 days long, followed by a short period of 5 additional days, known as the epagomenal days. The Egyptians called these the days upon the year, a time considered outside the normal flow of the months. The Copts preserved this elegant framework perfectly. Where they diverged and where they dramatically improved upon the original was in their treatment of the leap year. The ancient Egyptians were aware their calendar drifted but never officially corrected it. The Copts, however, drawing on the knowledge of their Hellenistic and Roman-era ancestors, integrated the leap year principle of the Julian calendar, but applied it with a crucial modification that guaranteed superior long-term accuracy. The Coptic calendar's leap year rule is both simple and brilliant. A leap day is added to the short, 5-day epagomenal period every 4th year, making it 6 days long. But the rule for which year is a leap year is different from the Julian and even the Gregorian system. The Coptic calendar follows a pattern tied to a specific cycle, ensuring that its average year length stays perfectly in sync with the true astronomical year. This meticulous attention to the fractional day is what sets it apart. While the Gregorian calendar we use today is highly accurate, with an error of only 1 day every 3,200 years, the Coptic calendar is even more precise over the very long term. Its structure results in an almost perfect alignment with the tropical solar year, a feat of calendrical engineering that has allowed it to remain stable for centuries without the need for further adjustment. This precision is not just a mathematical curiosity, it is the bedrock of the Coptic Orthodox Church's liturgical life. The entire rhythm of worship, from the daily prayers to the grandest feasts, is governed by this ancient cycle. The most important example is the calculation of Easter. Unlike the Western Christian churches, which eventually adopted the Gregorian calendar for this purpose, the Coptic Church has always used its own calendar to determine the date of this movable feast. Their calculation is intricate, ensuring that Easter always falls after the vernal equinox and after the Jewish holiday of Passover, in accordance with ancient traditions. This means that Coptic Easter often occurs on a different Sunday than Easter in the Western world, a visible sign of a distinct and deeply rooted tradition that has maintained its own cosmic timetable. The months themselves carry names derived from ancient Egyptian deities, a beautiful echo of a pre-Christian past that has been seamlessly integrated into a Christian context. Months like Taut, Paupi, and Hathor are not just labels, they are living connections to a civilization that first codified the solar year. For millions of Coptic Christians in Egypt and around the world, this calendar is not a historical relic but a vibrant part of their daily identity. It marks the seasons of fasting, like the 43 days of Lent leading up to Easter, and the seasons of celebration. The Coptic New Year, known as Nowruz, is celebrated on the first day of the month of Taut, which usually corresponds to September 11th on the Gregorian calendar, a day of joyful festivities that blends Christian faith with ancient Egyptian heritage. The continued use of this calendar is a powerful statement of resilience and cultural continuity, a way of measuring time that has outlasted the empires that once ruled Egypt and has preserved a strand of astronomical wisdom from the dawn of history right into the present day. But the story of ancient Egyptian timekeeping doesn't end with the Coptic calendar. Its influence traveled south, taking root in the highlands of East Africa, where it evolved into a system that stands entirely alone in the modern world. This brings us to the Ethiopian calendar, a unique and vibrant tradition that is not merely a historical curiosity but the official civil calendar of a nation, operating in parallel with our own. For anyone glancing at a date in Ethiopia, the first thing they notice is the time difference. And we're not just talking about time zones. The Ethiopian calendar is currently 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian calendar, placing us roughly in the year 2016 or 2017 according to their reckoning. This discrepancy isn't an error. It's a direct result of alternate calculations concerning the birth of Christ and a steadfast adherence to an ancient chronological framework. While much of the world synchronized its dating around a revised calculation in the Middle Ages, Ethiopia maintained the original estimate, preserving a timeline that offers a fascinating alternative perspective on the current year. The structure of the year itself is a marvel of mathematical elegance, directly inherited from the ancient Egyptian model via the Coptic system. The Ethiopian calendar features 12 months, each consisting of exactly 30 days. This creates a clean 360-day core, but the solar year demands more, and here we find the calendar's distinctive feature, a 13th month. This short month, called Pagium, consists of 5 days or 6 during a leap year. Think of it as a year-end interlude, a period outside the regular monthly cycle that serves to balance the books with the sun's journey. The naming of the months reflects the rhythms of the regional climate. For instance, Miozia corresponds roughly to April and May and is associated with the spring harvest, while Kerem covers July and August, the primary rainy season. This 13-month structure creates a consistency that our own Gregorian calendar, with its uneven months of 28, 30, and 31 days, completely lacks. Every month in the Ethiopian system begins on the same day of the week, making it incredibly straightforward for planning and memory. This calendar is far more than a method for marking days. It is the pulsating heart of Ethiopian cultural and religious life. It governs the schedule of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, one of the oldest branches of Christianity in the world. All major religious holidays, from the joyous celebration of Meskel, which commemorates the finding of the true cross, to the solemn fasts, are fixed according to this ancient timetable. Perhaps the most beautiful example is Enkutotash, the Ethiopian New Year, which falls on the first day of the month of Meskham, usually around September 11th on the Gregorian calendar. This coincides with the end of the rainy season, a time when the highlands erupt in vibrant yellow flowers known as Adai Abeba. The holiday is a celebration of renewal and beauty, filled with singing, dancing, and the exchange of gifts. The calendar ensures that this sense of rebirth is perpetually tied to an actual rebirth in the natural world, maintaining a harmony between human celebration and the environment that many modern calendars have lost. Living by this system in a globally connected world presents unique challenges and affirmations of identity. Official documents in Ethiopia often display both the Ethiopian and Gregorian dates. The International Business Day might follow the Monday to Friday Gregorian week, but the rhythm of social and religious life marches to the beat of the local calendar. This creates a fascinating duality for Ethiopians who navigate between two different conceptions of time on a daily basis. The persistence of this ancient system is a powerful statement of cultural sovereignty. It represents a conscious choice to maintain a living link to a pre-colonial past and to an astronomical tradition that stretches back to the pharaohs. In a world increasingly homogenized by the Gregorian calendar, the Ethiopian system stands as a testament to the enduring power of cultural heritage, proving that time itself is not a universal constant but a deeply human construction, woven from history, faith, and an enduring connection to the cosmos. Continuing our journey through the many ways civilizations have structured time, we now arrive in the highlands of the Caucasus Mountains, home to one of the world's oldest cultures and a calendar system that offers a fascinating glimpse into a pre-Christian worldview. The ancient Armenian calendar stands out not for complex intercalation or lunisolar calculations, but for its remarkable simplicity and stability. This was a fixed-year solar calendar, a system that operated on a beautifully straightforward principle: 12 months, each consisting of 30 days, followed by a compact period of 5 additional days. This results in a consistent, unchanging year of 365 days. In an era where many calendars wrestled with the awkward fraction of a day beyond the full year, the Armenian system made a deliberate choice. It prioritized predictability and ease of use over perfect astronomical alignment. Imagine the practical benefits of such a system for an ancient society. There were no confusing leap years to remember, no months that changed length from year to year. Every month was 30 days, every year was 365 days. This consistency would have been a tremendous boon for administration, agriculture, and religious observance. Farmers could rely on the calendar to signal the changing seasons with dependable regularity, and civil authorities could schedule taxes and festivals without the need for a class of specialized astronomers to constantly tweak the timeline. The 5 extra days, known as Orleats, were considered to be outside the regular months, a time often associated with rest, celebration, and reflection, much like the epagomenal days in the Egyptian calendar from which it likely drew inspiration. Each of the 12 months had its own name, many of which were tied to ancient Armenian deities and natural phenomena, embedding the rhythm of the year deeply within the culture's mythology and connection to the land. Of course, this elegant simplicity came with a known, accepted trade-off. By ignoring the extra quarter of a day that constitutes the true solar year, the Armenian calendar would slowly drift against the seasons, just as the original Egyptian civil calendar did. Over a century, this drift would amount to about 25 days. This means that a festival intended to celebrate the spring equinox would, after 400 years, be occurring a full season earlier. Yet, evidence suggests that the Armenians were aware of this drift and for a long period simply accepted it. The calendar served its purpose perfectly well on a human timescale. Its value was in its stability and its role as a unifying cultural force, rather than as a precision instrument for tracking celestial events over millennia. It provided a solid, unchanging framework for daily life and national identity. This system was the cornerstone of Armenian life for centuries, deeply intertwined with the pagan religion that preceded the nation's conversion to Christianity in the early 4th century. The adoption of Christianity as the state religion marked a profound turning point. The old calendar, with its months named for pagan gods, was gradually supplanted for ecclesiastical purposes by the Julian calendar and later influenced by the Byzantine system. However, the ancient Armenian calendar was not simply erased. Its legacy endured in various forms, and a modified version of it, known as the Hakian calendar, is still used today by the Armenian Apostolic Church to calculate the dates of movable feasts, most importantly Easter. This creates a beautiful continuity, a thread connecting modern Armenian Christian practice to its ancient pagan past. The story of the Armenian calendar is a powerful reminder that the accuracy of a timekeeping system cannot be measured by astronomical precision alone. Its true value can also lie in its social function, its ability to provide a stable, shared rhythm that binds a culture together across generations, creating a predictable world in an otherwise unpredictable universe. From the fixed solar rhythms of the Armenian highlands, we now ascend to the roof of the world, where timekeeping becomes a dynamic and deeply spiritual art. The Tibetan calendar is a magnificent tapestry woven from diverse astronomical traditions, a complex lunisolar system that stands as a testament to Tibet's unique position as a cultural crossroads. Imagine a system that incorporates the mathematical rigor of Indian astronomy, the practical solar terms of Chinese tradition, and the rich spiritual cosmology of Tibetan Buddhism, all synthesized into a single, coherent framework for measuring time. This is not a static relic, but a living, breathing calculation, maintained to this day by dedicated astronomers who use it to guide everything from the planting of crops to the timing of the most sacred religious observances. At its heart, the Tibetan system, known as the Tsilak or Yongtze calculations, tackles the classic challenge of harmonizing the moon and sun with a unique set of rules. The lunar month is paramount, beginning with the precise moment of the new moon. However, Tibetans use a calculated mean lunation rather than a simple observation, derived from ancient Indian Siddhanta astronomical texts. This mean month is incredibly detailed, measured in units of polas and shidpas, fractions of a second that allow for meticulous long-term prediction. But the Tibetan calendar is not purely lunar. To keep the months aligned with the seasons, it employs an intricate method of intercalation or adding leap months. Unlike the Chinese system, which uses solar terms, the Tibetan method is based on a principle called the accumulated residue. Essentially, each lunar month falls short of a solar month by a small amount. This difference accumulates over time, and when it reaches the length of a full lunar month, an extra month is inserted into the calendar. The calculations for determining exactly when this happens are exceptionally complex, involving cycles of 65 years and intricate formulas that account for the subtle variations in the moon's orbit. This mathematical foundation gives the calendar its structural integrity, but its soul is found in its astrological and religious applications. Every day is characterized by a combination of elements from several cycles running concurrently. There is a 60-year cycle similar to the Chinese system, formed by combining 12 animal signs with 5 elements, each in their male and female aspects. Then there's a 7-day week, each day associated with a celestial body. Most importantly, each day has a specific number and combination, derived from complex tables that determine its quality, whether it is auspicious for starting a journey, building a house, or conducting a wedding. This makes the calendar an indispensable guide for daily life. A farmer will consult it to find the most favorable day to sow seeds, while a family will use it to choose an auspicious date for a child's naming ceremony. The calendar is deeply integrated with Tibetan medicine as well, with certain days considered better for taking specific remedies or performing healing rituals, based on the believed influence of the planets and stars on the body's inner energies. The ultimate expression of the Tibetan calendar's significance is its role in determining the dates of major religious festivals. The most famous of these is Losar, the Tibetan New Year. The date is not fixed. It is calculated each year based on the lunisolar system, typically falling in February or March on the Gregorian calendar. The entire celebration, which can last for 2 weeks, is a vibrant tapestry of ancient rituals, monastic ceremonies, and family gatherings, all timed according to this cosmic clock. Another critical date is Soga Dawa, which commemorates the birth, enlightenment, and parinirvana of Buddha. Its timing is tied to the full moon of the 4th Tibetan month, and its observance is considered to generate immense spiritual merit. The ability to accurately predict these dates years in advance is a demonstration of the system's profound accuracy and a crucial responsibility for the calendar makers. In monasteries, specially trained monks spend years mastering the complex mathematics and astronomy required to compile the annual almanac, or Tsai Fuk, which is then distributed across the Tibetan world. This continuous effort ensures that the rhythm of spiritual life remains perfectly synchronized with the movements of the heavens, a beautiful and enduring legacy of a civilization that sees time not as a mere measurement, but as a sacred path woven from the very fabric of the cosmos. Now, from the high-altitude mathematics of Tibet, we descend to the fertile islands of Indonesia, where timekeeping transforms into a breathtaking act of cultural fusion. The Javanese calendar is not merely a system for marking days. It is a living, breathing symbol of the archipelago's complex history, a unique hybrid that weaves together Islamic, Hindu, and ancient indigenous beliefs into a single, intricate tapestry. This isn't a case of one tradition simply replacing another. It's a remarkable synthesis where different cycles coexist and interact, creating a framework so rich that any given day carries multiple layers of meaning, each informing the other to guide spiritual and daily life. The foundation of this system reveals its blended heritage. The most visible layer is the Islamic Hijri calendar, which provides the structure of 12 lunar months. This reflects the dominant faith in modern Java. However, running seamlessly alongside it is the ancient Soka calendar, a solar calendar of Hindu-Buddhist origin that was brought to the island centuries ago. This alone creates a fascinating duality, with solar and lunar years progressing in parallel. But the true genius and uniqueness of the Javanese system lie in 2 additional, indigenous cycles that operate independently, creating a complex interplay of temporal energies. The first is the universal 7-day week, which we recognize. The second is the distinctly Javanese Pasaran week, a 5-day cycle with days named Legi, Pawing, Pon, Wage, and Kliwan. Imagine these two short cycles, the 7-day week and the 5-day Pasaran week, running concurrently, like two interlocking gears of different sizes. They are completely independent of the lunar or solar months. A Monday doesn't always pair with Legi. Instead, they combine and then separate. It takes 35 days for a specific combination, like Monday Legi, to repeat. This 35-day cycle is a fundamental building block of the Javanese temporal worldview. Each of these combinations is believed to have its own specific character or spiritual quality. A day designated as Thursday Pon, for instance, might be considered highly auspicious for starting a long journey, while Tuesday Wage could be seen as favorable for agricultural work. This system provides a nuanced, rotating set of influences that go far beyond the simple luck of a Friday the 13th. This intricate dance of cycles expands to an even grander scale with the Windu cycle, a period of 8 years of the Saka calendar. Each year within a Windu is not just a number, it is given a specific name, and these names repeat in a set sequence. The Windu cycle itself then repeats, creating a larger pattern that unfolds over time. This creates a multi-layered system for understanding the qualitative nature of a year, not just its quantity. When a Javanese person considers an important life event, they might consult a calendar expert to find a date that is harmonious across all these systems. A day in the correct lunar Islamic month for religious reasons, falling on an auspicious combination of the 7-day and Pasaran week within a favorably named year of the current Windu cycle. This allows for an incredibly personalized and spiritually aligned choice of dates for weddings, housewarmings, or the start of a business. The result of this layering is a calendar that functions as a deeply philosophical and practical tool for cultural preservation. It reflects a worldview where different truths can coexist and enrich one another. The Islamic lunar cycle governs religious rituals like Ramadan. The Hindu-derived Saka calendar connects to agricultural cycles and some older festivals, and the indigenous Pasaran and Windu cycles provide a uniquely Javanese layer of spiritual navigation. This isn't seen as contradictory but as complementary. The calendar is a masterful example of how Javanese culture has absorbed external influences without erasing its own foundational identity, integrating them into a cohesive and complex whole. For the Javanese, time is not a single thread but a woven fabric, and their calendar is the loom that beautifully intertwines these diverse strands into a pattern that guides life with a depth and richness unmatched by virtually any other system in the world. Shifting our focus from the intricate, mathematically driven calendars of Asia, we venture into a world where time was measured not by complex calculations, but by the stark, undeniable rhythms of survival in a harsh and magnificent landscape. The Norse calendar, used by the Vikings and their Scandinavian ancestors, was a profoundly practical system, deeply woven into the fabric of daily life, seafaring, and mythology. Unlike the codified systems of priests and astronomers, our understanding of it is like piecing together a saga from fragmented runestones. There are no surviving complete manuals. Instead, we rely on later medieval texts from Iceland, like the Rimatal or passages in the sagas, which describe a system that had already been influenced by Christian contact. Reconstructing it is an exercise in reading between the lines of history, but what emerges is a picture of a robust and intuitive method for navigating the year. The fundamental structure of the Norse year was beautifully simple, reflecting the extreme seasonal shifts of the north. The year was divided into two unequal halves, a concept that made perfect sense in a world where summer and winter were not just seasons, but completely different modes of existence. The first half was Suma or summer. This was not the leisurely summer of warmer climes, it was a frantic, vital period of activity. It began roughly in mid-April, a time when the ice broke up, the pastures turned green, and the all-important shipping season could commence. The Althing, the great Icelandic parliamentary gathering, was held at the start of summer. This was the time for farming, trading, and the famous Viking raids, the time when the world was open and accessible. This season was followed by Veta, winter, which began around mid-October. Winter was a time of contraction and isolation. The seas became treacherous, fields lay fallow under snow, and life centered around the longhouse, a time for storytelling, crafting, and enduring the long, dark nights. Within this two-season framework, time was counted primarily by the moon. The Norse used lunar months known as manatha. Evidence suggests there were 12 of these months in a year, but their names and precise timing could vary from region to region, even from farm to farm. The names themselves are a poetic almanac of the Nordic world. For instance, Goi, which fell in late winter, might be associated with the bawling of livestock or the last of the stored food. Heyanir, the hay-making month, speaks for itself, occurring in July. Then there was Ilya, a month shrouded in mystery and often connected to the midwinter festival of Yule, a time of feasting and supernatural happenings. The beginning of each month was likely tied to the observation of the new crescent moon, but here lies the core challenge of the Norse system. A year of 12 lunar months is only 354 days long, creating an 11-day shortfall compared to the solar year. This discrepancy forced the Norse to develop a clever, observational solution to keep their calendar in sync with the seasons, which were a matter of life and death. They could not afford for their harvest month to drift into autumn storms. The solution was the insertion of an extra summer, an intercalary month. This was not done on a fixed schedule like our leap year, but was a decision made by a designated calendar expert in a local community, often a chieftain or a law speaker. When this person observed that the progress of the summer was too far ahead of the lunar months when the lunar calendar said it was early spring, but the ice was already breaking up, he would declare that the current summer would be a long summer, adding an extra month to realign the human count with the reality of nature. This practice is explicitly mentioned in the Icelandic sagas, showing a flexible, pragmatic approach to timekeeping. The true genius of the Norse calendar, however, lay in its deep integration with the environment. It was calibrated by a series of key seasonal markers that were impossible to ignore. The most important of these was the summer solstice. In Sweden, the start of summer was officially declared when the warmth of the sun could be felt equally on both sides of a ridge, a beautifully physical measurement. The first sighting of the cuckoo bird or the blooming of certain flowers were also critical signals. This was a calendar you felt on your skin and saw with your eyes. It was a system designed for a people intimately connected to their world, where a chieftain's declaration of a long summer was less about astronomical precision and more about ensuring the community's survival, aligning their ships' departures and their harvests with the unforgiving yet predictable clock of the natural world. But perhaps this pragmatic, observational approach to timekeeping finds its most influential early expression not in the wilds of the north, but in the very cradle of civilization itself. While the Norse relied on the feel of the sun on a ridge, the ancient scribes of Mesopotamia were developing a system of such meticulousness that it would become the administrative backbone of empires. Our focus now turns to a specific and profoundly important system, the Nippur calendar. Emerging from the sacred city of Nippur in ancient Sumer, this calendar did not merely serve a single city-state. It became the gold standard, the template adopted across Sumer and Akkad. Its structure and principles were so effective that they laid the essential groundwork for the Babylonian calendar we discussed earlier, establishing a tradition of precise celestial observation that would influence timekeeping for millennia. The Nippur calendar was fundamentally lunisolar, grappling with the same core challenge as so many others, reconciling the moon's consistent phases with the sun's defining seasons. Its year was composed of 12 lunar months, with each month beginning not at the astronomical new moon, when the moon is completely dark, but at the first sighting of the slender waxing crescent in the western sky just after sunset. This moment was not calculated in advance by a formula. It was a moment of high drama and profound religious significance that had to be witnessed and officially declared. This responsibility fell to a special class of priestly observers who would scan the evening sky with a trained eye. Upon confirming the sighting, they would send messengers throughout the land to proclaim the start of the new month. This practice embedded a human, almost democratic, element into the calendar, making its progression a public event witnessed by the community and sanctioned by the gods. The names of these months provide a window into the world of the Sumerians, reflecting their agricultural cycle and religious festivals. The year began around the spring equinox with a month like Barazaggar, possibly meaning throne of the sanctuary, while others bore names like month of the barley harvest or month of the offering of the malt. This direct connection to the Earth's rhythms was vital for an economy built on farming. However, a 12-month lunar year is 11 days short of a solar year. Left uncorrected, a month named for the barley harvest would soon occur long after the harvest was over. The ingenious solution, one of the Nippur calendar's greatest contributions, was intercalation. When the priests observed that the lunar months were drifting too far out of sync with the agricultural seasons, they would decree the addition of an extra month, inserted into the calendar to bring the human measure of time back into alignment with the celestial reality. Initially, this was an ad hoc decision, but over centuries of meticulous record-keeping on clay tablets, the priests of Mesopotamia began to detect patterns, moving toward the more predictable 19-year Metonic cycle that would later be formalized by the Babylonians. The true legacy of the Nippur calendar lies in its standardization and administrative power. As the city of Nippur grew in religious importance, its calendar became the preferred system for scribes and administrators across the region. This was a monumental development. Imagine the challenge of running an empire where every city-state marked time differently. The adoption of the Nippur calendar created a unified temporal language, allowing for the synchronization of tax collection, the scheduling of religious festivals honored by all, and the precise dating of legal documents and royal edicts. It brought order to complexity, enabling the intricate bureaucracy necessary for large-scale civilization to flourish. This system of months, intercalation, and priestly observation was the direct precursor to the more mathematically refined Babylonian calendar. In essence, the Nippur calendar represents the crucial transition from simple lunar observance to a sophisticated, state-sponsored lunisolar system, a foundational step in humanity's long journey to map the heavens and impose order on the relentless flow of time. While the Maya calendar often dominates discussions of Mesoamerican timekeeping, another civilization, thriving in the rugged highlands of what is now Oaxaca, Mexico, developed a system of equal sophistication and profound cultural importance. The Zapotec civilization, with its magnificent capital at Monte Albon, was a contemporary and sometimes rival of the Maya, and their calendar stands as a testament to their independent intellectual achievements. Sharing the core Mesoamerican timekeeping philosophy, the Zapotec system revolved around the sacred interplay of two primary cycles, creating a complex and divinely guided map of existence. At the heart of their temporal world was the Page, the Zapotec equivalent of the Maya Tzolk'in. This was a 260-day ritual cycle formed by the combination of 20-day signs with 13 numbers. The day signs, however, were uniquely Zapotec, drawing from their own rich mythology and the natural world of the Oaxacan valleys. Instead of the Maya's immixed crocodile or Akbal night, the Zapotec cycle featured signs like Casillo, their powerful lightning and rain god, Zu, which represented earthquakes or movement, and Pitau, a term for their deities. Each of these 20 signs was imbued with a specific essence, a spiritual force that shaped the character of the day. When combined with the numbers 1 through 13, the page created a never-ending sequence of 260 uniquely named and fated days. This cycle was not tied to any astronomical body. Instead, it was a metaphysical engine, a divine count that dictated the rhythm of ritual and the fate of individuals from the moment of their birth. A priest or kola pidge would use this calendar to name a child, the resulting names such as 1 Kasijo or 7 Zu, believed to influence their personality and destiny for life. Running parallel to this sacred count was the Iza, the solar year of 365 days. This was the practical calendar, the framework for organizing agriculture, commerce, and the civic life of the city-states. Like the Maya hop, it was divided into 18 months of 20 days each, with a final, separate period of 5 days considered to be extremely unlucky and outside the normal flow of time. These 5 days, known as the Yuyo, were a time of fear and inactivity, when the boundaries between the human world and the supernatural realm were believed to be thin. People would stay indoors, avoid major undertakings, and engage in rituals to ward off malevolent spirits, hoping to survive this dangerous period so the world could be renewed for another year. The Iza calendar ensured that ceremonies to honor the gods of rain, maize, and fertility were held at the correct solar time, synchronizing human activity with the essential cycles of planting and harvest in their mountainous homeland. The true power of the Zapotec calendar, much like that of their Maya neighbors, emerged from the majestic dance between the Page and the Iza. These two cycles, one of 260 days and the other of 365, operated like two immense interlocking gears of different sizes. Any given day had a designation in both cycles, and it would take a full 52 years for a specific combination to repeat itself. This 52-year cycle, known across Mesoamerica as the calendar round, was a period of immense significance. Its completion was marked by a major ceremony of renewal, a time to reaffirm the covenant between the people and the gods. The Zapotecs, like the Aztecs later, may have feared that the sun might not continue its journey if the proper rituals were not performed, making the successful passage of each 52-year period a moment of collective relief and celebration. Archaeological evidence from Monte Alban, particularly the Danzantes carvings and numerous inscribed stelae, shows the Zapotecs' deep commitment to tracking these cycles. They recorded important historical events: the ascension of rulers, victories in battle, the dedication of temples using a sophisticated system of bar and dot numerals for the numbers and distinct glyphs for the day signs. While their long count system for tracking linear time over millennia is not as well understood as the Mayas, they certainly had methods for dating events far into their mythical past. The calendar's influence permeated every aspect of Zapotec society. It dictated the schedule of markets, determined the most auspicious times for planting and harvesting maize, and guided the intricate sequence of religious ceremonies needed to appease the gods and maintain cosmic balance. The legacy of this system endures today among modern Zapotec communities, where calendar priests still consult ancient traditions for divination and to guide community life, preserving a remarkable thread of cultural knowledge that connects the present directly to the monumental city of Monte Alban and its brilliant understanding of time. Yet long before the sophisticated mathematics of the Hindu Panchanga and the magnificent observatories of later Indian astronomy, the foundational principles for this cosmic science were being codified in a text of immense antiquity. To understand the origins of Indian timekeeping, we must travel back to the final centuries before the Common Era, to the world of the Vedas, where the precise performance of rituals was believed to sustain the universe itself. This brings us to the Vedanga Jyotisha, a work whose very name translates to astronomy, the limb of the Vedas. It is not a standalone book of science, but an auxiliary text, one of the 6 essential disciplines required to correctly understand and execute the Vedic scriptures. Its purpose was breathtakingly pragmatic and profoundly spiritual: to ensure that a sacrifice intended for the summer solstice did not, through a drifting calendar, accidentally be performed in the rainy season, thereby rendering it ineffective or even displeasing to the gods. The methodology laid out in the Vedanga Jyotisha is a masterclass in turning celestial observation into a practical, repeatable system. At its core is the concept of the Yuga, a fundamental period of 5 solar years. The text states that this 5-year cycle contains 62 synodic months, which are the periods from one new moon to the next, and 67 sidereal months, which are the moon's revolutions relative to the fixed stars. It also carefully notes that this Yuga encompasses 1,830 civil days. This framework allowed the Vedic priests to create a manageable, repeating calendar. By knowing that 62 lunar months fit neatly into 5 solar years, they could establish a predictable pattern for intercalation, the insertion of an extra month, to keep their lunar-based ritual calendar in sync with the solar seasons. This was a monumental conceptual leap, providing a fixed rule to solve the ancient problem of lunar-solar drift that plagued so many early civilizations. What is truly staggering about the Vedanga Jyotisha is the precision of its calculations, especially considering its age. The text provides a value for the length of the solar year. It states that the sun, in its northern and southern course along the ecliptic, traverses the sky in 1,830 days in a yuga of 5 years. A simple division reveals their calculation. 1,830 days divided by 5 years equals 366 days per year. At first glance, this seems less accurate than other ancient systems. However, scholars argue this figure is not a simple mistake, but likely a sidereal measure tracking the sun's return to the same position relative to a fixed star, rather than its return to the equinox, which is the tropical year we commonly use. The difference is subtle but significant, caused by the slow precession of the equinoxes. More remarkably, the text's calculation for the average lunar month is incredibly close to the modern value. By dividing the 1,830 days by the 62 synodic months in a yuga, they arrived at a month length of 29.5161 days, a figure that is accurate to within a few minutes of the true value. This level of accuracy, achieved over 2 millennia ago, reveals an extraordinary tradition of meticulous observation. The primary driver for this precision was, as with so much in Vedic culture, ritual necessity. The performance of sacrifices like the Agnihotra, which required offerings at sunrise and sunset, or the seasonal Soma sacrifices, demanded an exact knowledge of the solstices and equinoxes. The Vedanga Jyotisha provided the tools to predict these critical junctures. It describes the winter solstice, known as the Uttarayana, as the time when the sun begins its northward journey, a period considered highly auspicious. The text also details the nakshatras, the 27 or 28 lunar mansions that form a celestial belt against which the moon's path is tracked. The moon's position in a specific nakshatra was crucial for determining the timing of many rituals, linking each ceremony to a specific cosmic energy. This was not astronomy for its own sake. It was a sacred science, a means of aligning human action with the divine machinery of the cosmos to maintain Rita, the cosmic order. The legacy of this ancient text cannot be overstated. The Vedanga Jyotisha established the basic vocabulary and mathematical framework that would be elaborated upon for centuries. It is the direct progenitor of the later Siddhantic tradition of Indian astronomy, where master astronomers like Aryabhata and Brahmagupta would produce works of breathtaking mathematical complexity. The concepts of the Yuga, the meticulous tracking of the nakshatras, and the pursuit of ever more precise planetary models all have their roots in this foundational limb of the Vedas. It stands as a powerful testament to a civilization that, at a very early stage, recognized that to commune with the gods, one first had to master the clockwork of the heavens, embarking on a scientific journey that would yield some of the most accurate astronomical knowledge the ancient world would ever produce. Now let's journey to the windswept steppes of Eastern Europe, where a nomadic confederation forged a powerful empire and left behind a cryptic record of their own unique reckoning of time. The Bulgar calendar, known to us primarily through a single, priceless document called the Nominalia of the Bulgarian Khans, offers a fascinating glimpse into the worldview of the Proto-Bulgarians. This was not a solar or lunisolar system designed for agriculture, but a circular calendar, a chronicle of power and lineage that echoed the traditions of their Central Asian homeland. The Nominalia itself is a list of the early rulers of the First Bulgarian Empire, but it doesn't just give their names, it records the lengths of their reigns using this enigmatic cyclical system, creating a puzzle that historians and linguists have been deciphering for centuries. At the heart of this calendar is a 12-year cycle, each year bearing the name of an animal, in a tradition strikingly similar to the Chinese and Turkic zodiacs. The cycle runs in this order: Shega mouse, Shega ox. Interestingly, the same word is used for both mouse and ox in this context, creating some debate. Verani wolf, dox rabbit, ver. Dragon, Dilum snake, Imshega horse, dox sheep, Dilum monkey, Teku hen, et dog, and dox boar. You'll notice some animal names like dox appear for multiple years, which is one of the key complexities scholars have had to unravel. This animal cycle was the fundamental unit of time for recording history. Instead of counting years in a linear sequence from a fixed starting point, the Bulgars would note that a Khan ruled for, say, 3 years in the horse, meaning his reign spanned 3 complete cycles of the horse year, which is 36 years, or perhaps that an event occurred in a specific occurrence of the year of the wolf. The origins of this system point decisively eastward toward the vast Eurasian steppe. The Proto-Bulgarians were a Turkic people, and this type of animal calendar is a well-known feature of Turkic and Mongolic cultures. It was a practical system for nomadic peoples whose lives were governed by the breeding cycles of their herds and the seasonal rhythms of migration, rather than the fixed planting schedules of agrarian societies. The use of a repeating 12-year cycle, independent of the solar seasons, provided a stable, memorable framework for oral history and tradition. An elder could recount that a great battle took place in the year of the dragon, and everyone in the community would understand the reference within their shared cyclical timeline. This calendar was less about predicting equinoxes and more about structuring collective memory and legitimizing rulership by placing each Khan's reign within a cosmic order of recurring time. Deciphering the Nominalia is like unlocking a code. The text states things like, Avatokhol ruled for 150 years. His year was Dilum Tiverum. The phrase Dilum Tiverum is crucial. It likely means the snake month, but in the context of the circular calendar, it probably refers to the season or a specific period within the snake year when the ruler ascended to power. The reign lengths, often improbably long like 150 or 300 years, are not meant to be taken literally. They are almost certainly expressions in this cyclical system. A reign of 150 years might mean the Khan ruled for 12.5 cycles of the 12-year calendar, since 12 times 12 is 144, plus a portion of another cycle. This was a symbolic and sacred chronology, linking the ruler's life to the perpetual turning of the cosmic wheel, implying that his power was ordained by the natural order itself. The Bulgar calendar's story is also one of cultural fusion and eventual transformation. When the Bulgars settled in the Balkans and founded their empire, they came into contact with a predominantly Christian, Slavic population that used the Julian calendar. Over time, as the Bulgarian state Christianized and integrated Slavic culture, the old Turkic circular calendar began to fade from official use, replaced by the linear, solar-based system of the Byzantine world. The Nominalia, therefore, is a precious relic of that transition, a document that preserves the old way of counting time even as the kingdom was adopting a new one. It stands as a powerful reminder that calendars are not just tools for tracking days, they are expressions of identity. The circular calendar of the Bulgars, with its animal spirits and cyclical view of history, encapsulated the soul of a nomadic warrior people, a final echo of the steps preserved in the parchment of a medieval Slavic manuscript. And now we arrive at the final destination on our global tour of ancient timekeeping, a place so remote it feels like the edge of the world. This is Rapa Nui, better known as Easter Island, a tiny speck of land in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Here, separated from the nearest continent by over 2,000 kilometers of open sea, a resilient people developed a unique culture best known for its enigmatic giant stone statues, the moai. But these moai are more than just monumental art. Emerging evidence suggests they are the silent, stoic components of a sophisticated celestial calendar, a stone-based astronomy that allowed the Rapa Nui to navigate not the ocean, but the relentless flow of time itself in their isolated home. The key to unlocking this calendar lies not with the famous moai lining the coast, but at a unique inland site called Ahuakivi. Unlike other platforms or Ahu, which have their statues facing inland to watch over villages, Ahuakivi is special. Its 7 nearly identical moai gaze directly toward the setting sun, perfectly aligned to face the point on the horizon where the sun descends during the equinox. This precise orientation is the first major clue that these structures served an astronomical purpose far beyond the ceremonial. But the true genius of the site is revealed when the sun disappears and the stars emerge. According to a compelling theory put forward by astronomers and archaeologists, the 7 statues of Ahuakivi are a terrestrial mirror of a celestial wonder, the Pleiades star cluster. In the clear, unpolluted skies of the South Pacific, the Pleiades, known to the Rapa Nui as Matariki, would have been a brilliant and familiar sight. The theory proposes that the 7 moai were positioned to represent the 7 brightest stars of this cluster. More importantly, their alignment was designed so that when the Pleiades set in the western sky, they would appear to sink directly behind the row of statues, as if the stone figures were their earthly counterparts. This annual event, the heliacal setting of the Pleiades, occurred at a very specific and critically important time of year. It marked the end of the old year and the beginning of the new for the Rapa Nui people. This celestial signal was their New Year's Eve, a moment announced not by a human decree, but by the perfect alignment of the stars with the sacred stones. This stone-based astronomy was a practical necessity for survival. On a small island with limited resources, knowing the precise timing of the seasons was a matter of life and death. The disappearance of the Pleiades in the west just before their reappearance in the eastern dawn sky signaled the arrival of the season of Tangata Hanui, a time of plenty when migratory birds would arrive to nest and the ocean would become calmer, allowing for more productive fishing. It was the signal to prepare for the most important event in the Rapa Nui calendar, the annual birdman competition or Tangata Manu. This ritual, which involved a dangerous swim to a nearby islet to retrieve the first sooty tern egg of the season, was central to their political and religious life, determining leadership for the coming year. The celestial clock, marked by the moai of Ahuakivi, ensured this intense competition happened at the optimal, most auspicious moment. The Rapa Nui calendar was likely a complex lunisolar system, where lunar months were corrected by observations of solar events like the equinoxes and the cycles of key stars. Other Ahu and moai across the island are aligned with solstice sunrises and sunsets, creating a network of celestial observatories. The island itself was the instrument. This system demonstrates a profound understanding of the sky, developed over generations by a people who had only the naked eye, the horizon, and their incredible skill in stonework. In the utter isolation of Rapa Nui, with no outside influences, they engineered a calendar perfectly tailored to their unique environment. a testament to the universal human drive to find order in the cosmos and to mark our place within its grand cyclical dance. The Moai, therefore, are not just silent giants of a forgotten past. They are the eternal witnesses of a celestial clock, a final, hauntingly beautiful example of how ancient civilizations, no matter how remote, look to the heavens to measure their days and give meaning to their years. And so, our journey across continents and millennia comes to a close. From the vast cycles of the Maya to the stone observatories of Rapa Nui, we've witnessed 25 breathtakingly different approaches to a universal human challenge. What unites them is not a single method, but a shared, profound ingenuity. These calendars were not born from sudden inspiration, but from generations of patient, meticulous observation. Ancient astronomers, without telescopes or computers, dedicated their lives to tracking the subtle dance of the sun, the moon, and the stars, discerning patterns so precise they could predict celestial events centuries into the future. Their accuracy was hard-won, a testament to a deep, sustained collaboration with the cosmos itself. This incredible diversity reveals something fundamental about our species. It shows a universal, restless desire to find order in the chaos of existence, to mark our place within the grand narrative of the universe. For the ancient Egyptians, time was the rhythm of the life-giving Nile. For the Norse, it was the stark binary of summer's activity and winter's survival. For the Hindus, it was a multidimensional map of spiritual energy. Each culture looked at the same sky but saw a different reflection of its own values, its fears, and its aspirations. A calendar was more than a tool. It was a philosophy etched into days and months. A story, a civilization told itself about its relationship with the divine, with nature, and with its own destiny. This reflection leads to a provocative final thought. Our modern Gregorian calendar is a marvel of global standardization and administrative convenience. It allows international trade, coordinates travel, and syncs our digital lives with flawless efficiency. But in achieving this universal utility, have we lost something vital? These ancient systems were deeply embedded in the world. They tied the date to the smell of rain on dry soil, to the height of a star above the horizon, to the specific quality of light on a particular afternoon. They maintained a living, breathing connection between human time and cosmic time. Our calendar, for all its precision, operates in an abstract realm of numbers, often disconnected from the tangible rhythms of the earth and sky. Perhaps the greatest lesson these ancient timekeepers offer is an invitation to re-enchant our relationship with time, to occasionally look up from our digital schedules and notice the phase of the moon, or to mark the solstice not just as the shortest day, but as a turning point in the great celestial wheel. These systems remind us that time is not just a resource to be managed, but a dimension of wonder to be experienced. They challenge us to find a balance between the convenience of a global clock and the wisdom of a cosmic perspective. So we turn the conversation over to you. Which of these 25 ancient marvels captured your imagination the most? Was it the mathematical elegance of the Jalali calendar, the spiritual complexity of the Panchanga, or the stark, survivalist genius of the Norse system? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of history, be sure to subscribe. There are always more forgotten wonders to uncover, just waiting for us.